It was supposed to be the perfect day. My baby girl, Lily, was turning 1, and I was so excited to celebrate her first big milestone. The house was full of people I loved, and everything seemed perfect. But then my sister pulled me aside and whispered, "Do you know who that is in the back?" I turned around and my hands started shaking. The last person I wanted to see at my baby's birthday was standing there, my ex. It was a sunny afternoon, and the air was filled with excitement. The house was decorated with pastel balloons, streamers, and a small, simple cake for Lily's first birthday. The guests, a mix of family and close friends, were chatting and laughing. Lily was at the center of it all, happily surrounded by presents and toys, her tiny hands reaching for the colorful wrapping paper. Everyone was in a good mood, and for a moment, I felt at peace. This was supposed to be a day of joy. After everything I'd been through, I just wanted this day to be perfect for my little girl. Lily was growing so fast, and watching her giggle as she opened a gift made everything feel worth it. Her bright eyes and sweet smile lit up the room, and I couldn't help but feel proud of how far we'd come. The past year had been challenging, raising a baby on my own, dealing with sleepless nights and endless worries. But we made it. This was the first time in a long time I felt like I had it all together. My sister Abby was helping keep everything organized, passing out snacks, and keeping everyone entertained. She was my rock, always by my side through everything. We had always been close, but in recent years, she'd become even more protective of me, especially since the breakup. I was thankful for her. She always knew how to make me feel supported, even when things seemed impossible. I turned to her as I noticed a group of friends standing by the cake table, laughing. "Can you believe how fast this year went?" I asked, a smile spreading across my face. "I know," Abby replied, smiling back. "She's growing up so fast. You're doing amazing, Mia." Her words were comforting, but even in that moment, a small part of me couldn't shake the fear I'd been carrying since the day I found out I was pregnant. Fear of the unknown, fear of raising a child on my own. I always tried to push it aside, to keep the focus on the positive, on Lily, but sometimes that little voice in my head reminded me of the past, of the things I couldn't control. I was determined not to let anything ruin today, especially not my past. But as I was standing there, watching Lily play with her new toys, Abby's voice broke through my thoughts. "Mia, I need to talk to you," she said, pulling me aside with a look of concern on her face. I felt a sudden pang of unease in my chest. Abby's tone wasn't light anymore. "What's wrong?" I asked, sensing something wasn't right. Abby glanced toward the back of the room, her face pale. "Do you know who that is in the back?" she whispered, her voice low and urgent. I turned around, following her gaze to the corner of the room. My heart skipped a beat as I saw him. Ryan, the man I had worked so hard to forget, the man I had spent years trying to move on from, the man I never wanted to see again. There he was, standing just a few feet away from the group of people I loved, a familiar smile on his face. But to me, that smile felt cold, distant, and completely out of place. My mind went blank. I couldn't believe he was here. How did he even know about Lily's party? How had he found out where I lived? I tried to stay calm, to process what I was seeing, but everything inside me was screaming to do something. I felt my hands start to shake. I couldn't breathe. I looked back at Abby, and I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew what I was thinking. She knew this was the last thing I needed on a day that was supposed to be about celebrating my daughter. "Why is he here?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "How did he find out?" Abby didn't answer right away. Her gaze locked on Ryan in the back of the room. Finally, she spoke. "I don't know, Mia. I didn't invite him. I didn't think he'd show up, but..." Her words trailed off, but they didn't need to be finished. I knew exactly what she was thinking. This was a mess, and I had to deal with it. But not today. Not at Lily's party. The world around me felt like it was moving in slow motion. The laughter from the other guests seemed muffled, like I was underwater. My heart was pounding in my ears. I couldn't take my eyes off Ryan. And then he saw me. His eyes met mine across the room. And just like that, all the anger, confusion, and hurt I'd buried deep inside flooded back to the surface. I couldn't look away. I took a deep breath and turned back to Abby, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't want him here. I need him to leave. Now. But as Abby glanced back at Ryan, she hesitated. Mia, you can't just throw him out in front of everyone. Not today. I knew she was right. But everything inside me screamed to protect Lily, to protect the life we had built. Ryan had no place in our world anymore. He was nothing but a shadow of the past. And I wasn't about to let him ruin my baby's special day. I clenched my fists, trying to steady myself. I don't care. He can't stay here. Not today. Not around my baby. The clock was ticking, and I knew something had to be done. As I stood there, my mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. I felt like the room had suddenly gotten smaller, the air heavier, the laughter from the party, the sounds of the guests enjoying themselves, all seemed so distant now. In that moment, there was only one thing on my mind: Ryan. I couldn't believe he was here. I had worked so hard to leave the past behind, to make sure that Lily would grow up in a peaceful, loving environment, free from the chaos that Ryan had brought into my life. But here he was, standing at the back of my baby's first birthday party, as if he had a right to be there. I turned to Abby, my heart pounding in my chest. She had known, of course, that I would react this way. She could see it in my eyes, feel the tension in my body. But she didn't have the answers I needed. She didn't know how he had found out about the party, or why he'd come. And for a moment, it felt like I was all alone in this, like I had to figure it out by myself. Mia, Abby said softly, her voice barely audible over the buzz of the party. I know this is hard, but we can't just react right now. Let's think it through. But it was too late for thinking. My emotions were already in control. Every inch of my body was screaming at me to do something, to get him out of there, to protect my daughter and my peace of mind. How could he just show up uninvited, as if he had any claim to me, or to Lily? He had walked out of our lives months ago, and now, here he was, ruining one of the happiest days of my life. I could feel my hands begin to shake, my palms slick with sweat. It wasn't just anger I was feeling. There was fear too, a deep, gnawing fear that I couldn't shake. What if he tried to take Lily from me? What if he started a scene in front of everyone, embarrassing me and ruining the celebration? I turned back toward Ryan, trying to assess the situation. He was still standing in the same spot, his eyes fixed on me. The moment our gazes locked, something dark shifted in my stomach. I couldn't explain it, but the sight of him made me feel small, vulnerable. He had this way of looking at me like he could manipulate me back into his life, as if nothing had ever changed, but everything had changed. I wasn't that same scared girl anymore. I had a daughter to protect, a future to build. I couldn't let him walk into our lives as though nothing had happened. I wanted to scream, to demand that he leave, but I couldn't do that. Not yet. I had to keep my cool, at least for the sake of Lily and the people who were here to celebrate with us. I couldn't let Ryan ruin this for me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but it didn't help. The knot in my stomach only grew tighter. I felt Abby's hand on my arm, a gentle reminder that I wasn't in this alone. Mia, we'll figure this out. You don't have to face him by yourself. But the truth was, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go straight up to Ryan and tell him to leave, to never come near me or my daughter again. But another part of me was terrified. What if he didn't leave? What if he started something, made a scene? Or worse, what if he tried to take Lily? My mind spiraled with all the possibilities, each one worse than the last. Ryan wasn't just any ex. He was the kind of man who would say anything to get what he wanted. And in the past, I had let him manipulate me, let him walk all over me, but not anymore. I couldn't let that happen again. Not for me, and certainly not for Lily. She deserved better than a man who only showed up when it suited him. She deserved stability, peace, and love. But still, as I stood there, my legs felt weak, my heart racing. I couldn't believe I was standing in my own home, trying to figure out how to handle this situation. Why did Ryan have to show up today? Why couldn't he just stay out of my life, leave me to enjoy this day with my daughter? I turned back to Abby, trying to keep my voice steady. I need him to leave. Now I can't do this. I can't have him here with Lily. Abby hesitated. I could see the worry in her eyes, the same worry I felt in my chest. I know you're upset, but if we ask him to leave in front of everyone, it might make things worse. You don't want to make a scene, do you? I looked around the room. The guests were oblivious to the tension building in the corner of the room. Lily was playing with her new toys, blissfully unaware of what was going on. I couldn't let her see the fear in me. I had to protect her, no matter what. I don't care, I said, my voice stronger now. I can't stand here and pretend everything's fine when he's here. I don't care if he causes a scene. I just need him to leave. Abby sighed and nodded, her expression softening. Okay, we'll do this together, Mia. I've got your back. For a brief moment, I felt a small sense of relief. At least I wasn't facing this alone. Abby would help me. She always had. But the fear was still there, lurking at the back of my mind. What if Ryan refused to leave? What if he tried to take control of the situation? I couldn't let him. Not today. As I made my way toward him, my hands still shaking, I felt a surge of determination flood my chest. I wasn't going to let him ruin this. Not today. Not ever again. I had a daughter to protect, and I was ready to fight for her, no matter what. As I stood there, frozen for a moment, staring at Ryan in the back of the room, every fiber of my being screamed to take action. My pulse raced, and the knot in my stomach tightened. My mind was spinning with every worst-case scenario I could think of. I could feel the weight of the room pressing in on me. I had to make a choice, and fast. I turned back to Abby, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't just let him stay here, Abs. I can't. What if he tries to take her? What if he does something crazy? My eyes darted to Lily, still happily playing with the toys around her, unaware of the chaos brewing just a few feet away. The thought of Ryan getting anywhere near my baby, even for a second, made my blood run cold. Abby squeezed my arm, her face full of sympathy, but also resolve. Mia, I know this is hard, but we can't let him get to you. We've got to stay calm. Let's just figure this out quietly before things get out of hand. But as much as I appreciated Abby's calmness, I knew deep down that things weren't going to stay quiet. Not with Ryan here. There was a part of me that wanted to trust that he had changed, but that part of me was buried deep under layers of anger and hurt. He had shown me who he really was the day he walked out of our lives. He didn't get to just show up when it was convenient for him, especially on a day that was supposed to be about Lily. As I watched Ryan through the corner of my eye, my heart pounded harder. He was talking to a couple of people now, laughing like everything was fine, as if he hadn't just appeared out of nowhere at my baby's party. How could he act so casual? Didn't he realize the chaos he had just walked into? The sight of him, the same man who had hurt me so many times, sent a sharp, nauseating wave through me. It was like nothing had changed. Like all the healing I had worked so hard for was unraveling in front of my eyes. I wanted to go up to him and tell him to leave, demand that he get out. But the thought of causing a scene in front of everyone made my stomach churn. I had always been the kind of person to avoid confrontation, to try to keep things peaceful. But this wasn't about peace anymore. It was about protection. Protection for Lily. Protection for myself. Abby must have sensed the shift in me, because she stepped closer, her hand on my shoulder, her voice gentle but firm. Mia, I know you're scared, but don't let him have control over you. Not today. You've come so far. and this isn't the way to let him back in. I looked at her, her words hitting home. She was right. Ryan had controlled so much of my life when we were together, manipulating me into thinking I needed him. But I didn't need him. Not now, and certainly not in front of my daughter. Lily deserved better than that. She deserved stability and a mother who wasn't afraid to stand up for what was right. I took a deep breath, grounding myself. I wasn't that person anymore. I had made it this far, and I wasn't going to let Ryan's presence derail everything I had worked for. I had a family now, a daughter who depended on me, who looked up to me for strength. I couldn't let him or anyone take that from me. Without saying another word, I started walking toward Ryan. My feet felt heavy, each step like I was walking through thick mud, but my resolve grew stronger with every inch I closed the distance. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I knew this was the right thing to do. I was doing this for Lily. I was doing this for me. As I got closer, Ryan noticed me. His smile, the one that used to make my heart race, now felt cold and insincere. "Mia," he said, his voice dripping with that same charm he used to use on me. "It's been a while." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Every part of me wanted to yell at him, to demand an explanation, but I wasn't going to let him see me lose control. I had learned that lesson long ago. Instead, I looked him straight in the eyes, and my voice was steady when I spoke. "You need to leave. Now you're not welcome here. Not today." Ryan's smile faltered, just for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "Come on, Mia. It's been so long. Can't we just talk? I've changed. I'm here for Lily." The mention of Lily hit me like a punch in the gut. He didn't get to play the "I'm here for the baby" card. He hadn't been there for her for the last year. He hadn't been there for me when I needed him most. And now, on the most important day of her life, he thought he could just waltz in like nothing had happened. I shook my head, my voice growing stronger. You don't get to be a part of her life. You left us, Ryan. You don't get to come back just because you feel like it." For a moment, there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something that almost looked like guilt, or maybe regret, but then it was gone, replaced by that familiar smugness. "I didn't think you'd be so dramatic about this." That was the moment I knew. I wasn't just asking him to leave. I was taking back control of my life. I wasn't going to stand here and let him belittle me, let him make me feel small. Not anymore. Without another word, I turned and walked back toward Abby, my hands shaking, but my heart finally at ease. I didn't need to say anything else. The decision had been made. Ryan was gone, and I was going to make sure that no one, especially not him, could come back and disrupt the life I had built for Lily and me. Abby caught up to me, her eyes wide with concern, but also a quiet pride. "You did the right thing, Mia," she said softly, her hand gently resting on my back. "You're stronger than you know." And for the first time in a long while, I truly felt it. Strong. I had done the hard thing, the right thing, and I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of anything. The moments that followed felt like a blur. As I walked away from Ryan, the weight of the decision I had just made seemed to lift off my shoulders. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The last thing I wanted was to give him the satisfaction of seeing how much his presence had rattled me. I focused on one thing, and one thing only: my daughter. Lily was sitting on the floor, surrounded by balloons and gifts, completely unaware of the tension that had just unfolded around her. I approached her slowly, taking a deep breath as I knelt down beside her. Her innocent smile was all it took to remind me why I was doing this. She was the reason I couldn't let Ryan come back into our lives. She deserved a life free from the drama and chaos of my past. She deserved peace and stability, and I was going to give that to her, no matter what. I picked her up gently, feeling the weight of her small body in my arms. It was a comfort and a burden at the same time. As I cradled her against me, the feelings of fear and uncertainty that had gripped me moments earlier started to subside. I knew now that there was no going back. I had made my choice. And it wasn't just for me. It was for Lily. It was for the life I wanted to build for her, one where we didn't have to look over our shoulders or wonder when the next person from my past would show up to disrupt our peace. I started moving toward the front door, but I could feel the eyes of the other guests on me. I didn't care. At that moment, nothing else mattered. I had to get out of there, away from Ryan, away from the chaos he brought. The whole atmosphere in the house felt wrong, suffocating even. I could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment, but I didn't care. This wasn't their decision to make. This was mine, and I wasn't going to let anyone undermine it. Abby followed closely behind, her footsteps steady, but I could see the concern etched on her face. I could tell she was conflicted too, unsure if I was making the right call, but I had to do this. I had to protect Lily from the person who had once claimed to be a father figure to her, a role he had abandoned without a second thought. He didn't get to waltz back in like he had a right to be part of her life. He had made his choice long ago. He had walked away. "Are you sure about this, Mia?" Abby asked, her voice low and filled with worry. I stopped for a moment, turning to face her. I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She wanted to support me, but I knew that in her heart, she was still trying to figure out if I was doing the right thing. I understood that. Abby had always been the one to think things through carefully, to weigh all the options before making a decision, but I didn't have that luxury anymore. There was no room for indecision. There was only the need to act. "Yes," I said firmly, my voice calm but filled with a quiet strength. "I can't let him stay, Abs. I won't risk Lily being around someone like that again." Abby didn't argue. She just nodded and stayed close as I moved toward the door. Every step I took felt like I was shedding a layer of fear, like I was becoming someone stronger, someone who wasn't afraid to stand up for what was right. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. I knew I was doing the right thing, and I had to trust that. As I reached the front door, I heard Ryan's voice behind me, and my heart dropped. "Mia, wait, we need to talk. This isn't how it's supposed to end." I stopped in my tracks, my fingers gripping the doorknob tightly. I could feel the familiar wave of anxiety wash over me, but this time, it was different. This time, I wasn't the woman who would fall for his charm and excuses. I wasn't the woman who would let him manipulate me. I was a mother, and my duty was to my daughter. I turned around slowly, my face set with determination. "There's nothing left to say, Ryan. You made your choice when you walked away from us. Don't you dare come here now and try to make it sound like you want to be part of Lily's life. You don't get to come back and pretend like everything is fine." Ryan looked taken aback. His eyes flashed with anger, but there was something else behind them, a hint of desperation, maybe even regret. But it didn't matter. His words didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was that Lily and I were walking away from all of this. I turned back to the door and opened it, the cool air outside rushing in. I stepped onto the porch, feeling the weight of the moment settle around me. I had just closed a chapter of my life, one that had been filled with confusion, pain, and regret. But it was over now. Ryan was no longer a part of my story, no longer a part of Lily's story. Abby was right behind me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of clarity. I didn't need Ryan. I never had. I had Abby, my family, and most importantly, I had Lily. That was enough. As I walked toward my car, holding Lily tightly in my arms, I felt the tension begin to drain from my body. I was doing the right thing. The guilt, the fear, the uncertainty, they all started to fade away. I was choosing the future. I was choosing peace. I buckled Lily into her car seat, then slid into the driver's seat, my hands steady on the wheel. I took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill my lungs. It felt like a fresh start, a new beginning. As I drove away, leaving the house, the party, and Ryan behind, I looked in the rearview mirror. For the first time in a long time, I could finally see a clear path ahead. It was just Lily and me, and that was more than enough. The drive home felt surreal. The quiet of the car was a stark contrast to the chaos I had just walked away from. I glanced in the rearview mirror, watching Lily sleep soundly in her car seat, her small face relaxed and peaceful. She had no idea what had just happened, no idea of the storm that had raged just a few hours ago. For her, everything was still simple and safe. She was the calm in the center of my whirlwind, and that thought alone gave me the strength I needed to keep going. As I drove, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion wash over me. I had made the hard choice. I had taken control of my life, my past, and most importantly, my daughter's future. I had done what was best for her, and though it hadn't been easy, I knew it was the right decision. I wasn't about to let anyone, not even Ryan, disrupt the peace I had fought so hard to build. When I pulled into the driveway, I sat there for a moment, my hands still gripping the steering wheel. It was like I was waiting for the air to clear, for the tension in my chest to subside. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I had done what needed to be done, and that was enough. The past was behind me, and I had my future to focus on now. As I turned off the engine, I looked over at Lily once more. She was still asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling with each peaceful breath. My heart ached with love for her. In her eyes, I saw everything I wanted: hope, possibility, and a future filled with happiness. I would do whatever it took to protect her, to give her the life she deserved, even if it meant making difficult choices. I carefully unbuckled her from the car seat, cradling her against my chest as I stepped out of the car. The cool evening air hit my face, grounding me in the moment. I knew there was still work to be done. There would be consequences to today's actions, things I couldn't predict. But I also knew this. I was stronger than I had ever been, and I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stand in my way. Inside the house, the silence greeted me. The party had been a distant memory now, replaced with the quiet comfort of my own space. I set Lily down in her crib, making sure she was comfortable before taking a moment to collect myself. I needed to process everything that had just happened. There was so much I hadn't said, so many emotions I hadn't fully felt yet. But for now, the calm of the night was what I needed. As I sat down on the couch, I leaned back, allowing myself to breathe deeply for the first time since I had seen Ryan. The tightness in my chest had loosened, but it was replaced with something else, something unfamiliar. It was a sense of ownership, a sense of power. I had taken control of the situation. I had made the hard decision to protect my daughter, to keep her away from someone who didn't deserve to be a part of her life. I thought back to the years I had spent with Ryan, the way he had made me question my worth, my decisions. I had allowed him to manipulate me, to make me feel small and unimportant. But not anymore. I had learned the hard way that love didn't mean losing yourself. It didn't mean allowing someone to walk all over you. I had learned that sometimes love meant walking away. It meant putting yourself and your child first, even if it meant cutting ties with someone who once mattered. I thought about the look on Ryan's face when I asked him to leave. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, maybe regret, maybe anger, but it didn't matter. I wasn't the same person who would let him back into my life. He had shown me who he truly was, and I wasn't going to let him rewrite that history. He had no claim to me, and certainly no claim to Lily. It wasn't an easy choice. I knew that. It wasn't easy walking away from the familiar, from the comfort of a past that, no matter how toxic, still felt like it had been part of my identity for so long. But today, I had faced that fear. I had confronted it and made a choice that was best for Lily and me, and that was enough. As the night wore on, I thought about how far I had come in the past year. From the day I found out I was pregnant to this moment, I had grown in ways I hadn't even realized. I had learned how to be strong, to fight for what mattered, and to put my daughter's happiness and safety above everything else. I had learned that I didn't need anyone else to define me, that I could be the mother I wanted to be, without relying on the validation of anyone who wasn't truly there for me. The phone rang, and I glanced at the screen. It was Abby. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I was ready to talk about everything that had happened. But I knew I had to. She was my sister, and she had been there for me through so much. I answered the call. "Mia," she said softly, "how are you doing?" I could hear the concern in her voice, but there was something else, too. Something I couldn't quite place. "I'm okay, Abs," I replied, my voice steady. "I did what I had to do. I'm figuring it out." She sighed, the relief in her breath audible. "You're strong, Mia. I'm so proud of you." I smiled, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. "Thank you," I whispered, my heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you." I sat there for a while after the call ended, reflecting on everything that had happened. I had taken control of my life, and I knew that no matter what came next, I was ready. I had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes, in order to move forward, you have to let go of the past. And I had done that. For myself, for Lily, for our future. Tomorrow would be a new day, and it was a day I would face with strength, with love, and with the promise that I would always protect my daughter, no matter what.